All right. Good morning, trade pros. Hope you guys have had a fantastic weekend. A long weekend, that is. The market was closed yesterday, and I'm sure you guys are happy to not have traded on yesterday's session. There really wasn't much that happened, quite a bit of sideways nothingness. Okay. So I'm happy you took the time to stretch out the weekend and have a long weekend. But today we are back to work. All right. Back to the trading desks around the world globally, and markets are a moving. Okay, so first and foremost, the biggest news driving the stock market this morning, Apple shares are down 3.3%. All right, and that is on the back of the company becoming Apple becoming the first major U.S. company to guide its future revenues lower. All right, the projections for the current quarter are shifted or revised lower due to the coronavirus outbreak and worries that it's going to continue to spread. Apple is already seeing decreased demand for their headphones in Asia, and more specifically in China. Obviously, there's a decreased amount of economic activity. There's empty streets and everyone's at home. All right, so Apple said they're starting to resume, or work is starting to resume around the country, but we're experiencing a slower return to normal conditions than we had anticipated. That's what Apple's spokesperson said, and also added that stores which are open have been operating at reduced hours and with very low customer traffic. So because of that, Apple forecasted their future revenue to 63 to 67 billion. All right, ahead of estimates for 62.4. So they revised their future revenue lower, and a future revision to the revenue means that the share prices take a tumble. All right, stock markets are not about pricing in current value; they're pricing in the value of future growth discounted to today. All right, and when you look at it that way, it makes a lot more sense. Apple's down 3.3% pre-market, and that's pushing markets a little bit lower. NASDAQ is also selling off quite a bit, and that's what we're kind of dealing with. This is the landscape for today. All right, this morning, company Gilead, GILD is the ticker symbol, said that the trials are going slower than hoped for finding a vaccine for coronavirus, and that's because they're struggling to find qualified patients. All right, I wouldn't want to be tested on either. So, having the coronavirus is bad enough. What's worse is to be getting an untested vaccine in its first reiteration. So they're struggling to find that. That adds on or compounds to a bit of the worry. At 6:14 this morning, China's President Xi tried to jawbone the market, saying that they're still able to meet their 2020 economic targets in spite of the impact of the coronavirus. This is according to Chinese state media. So still confident they could achieve the target. But I mean, the question is how. All right, every big investment firm, every analyst has revised the GDP forecast for Q1 way lower in China, okay, with activity tumbling to a complete standstill. Other news this morning, though, Walmart released fourth quarter earnings per share of $1.38. The expectation was $1.44. Revenue came in at $141.7 billion versus an expected amount of $142.52. So revenue is much lower. Q4 comparative sales are up 1.9%. All right, but the expectation was 2.4, so that missed. But really, remember we talked about the tone of this morning market update is that the future guidance and the future opportunity for revenue is the most important to company. They see their fiscal year earnings per share for 2020 $5 to $5.15 versus $5.22 expected. So revising the earnings per share on a US dollar basis much lower than anticipated is going to put some downside in the company. Walmart has a 2.72% weight on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and so it's an important company, but it's not the biggest by far. Boeing has a way bigger hit on the Dow, so look for a little bit of Dow weakness potentially on the back of Walmart, and let's see what Apple does this morning as well with this 3.3% being down. Market's down off of its overnight highs and went to as high as the 92 quarter area to 92 half. Today we traded as low as 61 quarter, so down about 30 handles off all-time highs with a little bit of a gap on the way down. We'll talk about what that means in a moment. All right, in today's markets, in Asia, Japan's down 1.4%. Hey, no one's commenting. Japan's down 1.4%, Hong Kong's down 1.5%, China's flat, India's down 0.4%. All right, China just introduced a lot more stimulus that they're going to be putting into the economy, lacing in some good old-fashioned free money to grease the wheels. In Europe at midday, London's down 1%, Paris down 0.5%, Frankfurt down 0.8%, and the United States Dow's down 0.5% along with S&P. NASDAQ's down 0.8%, or almost 1 percentage point. All right, this morning also crude oil is down quite a bit. We were down 1.1% to 51.46. We've gone down even further than that. We're trading at 51.04, and we are in fact putting in the overnight low at 50.88. That's on the March contract. Today we're going to be rolling forward on oil from the March to the April, so we're going to the J. How did I know that? I mean, you could memorize the symbols, or you could have a little notepad that tells you at the bottom. All right, pretty cool. We're going to see if we can get those out to the market somehow. We did a question and answer thing on video on YouTube yesterday because the markets were closed. I figured I'd have some fun. I answered some questions for an hour, and a lot of the questions were, when are you guys going to get the swag coming out? Any t-shirts, any kind of TradePro, TradePro swag? And the answer is going to be, I'm going to look into it because it's getting ridiculous. You guys want it? We'll hook it up. All right, gold prices today are more or less, well, actually, they're a little bit higher. The open was 1590, now trading to as high as 95 on the overnight highs. That's where gold's at, so it's up slightly. Meanwhile, Bitcoin's down 1%, back to the 9,000, high 9,000s, but back below the 10,000 threshold. That's very symbolic and important for Bitcoin at the moment. Okay, today's economic calendar pretty light. Things will pick up this week, but Tuesday we don't have many events. Let me pull up the full calendar so we can talk about it. I'll do a little preview for the week because we're ahead of schedule. This morning market update. We had Empire Manufacturing survey that came out at 12.9, huge beat. The expectation was 5.0, and the prior was 4.8. So really strong manufacturing numbers. Held off a little bit of the sell-off this morning from Apple and coronavirus. All right, for the rest of this week, actually for today, my bad. Today at 10 a.m. we have NAHB, the Nachab Housing Market Index. That comes out at 10 a.m. 2 p.m. Fed's Kashkari speaking, and 4 p.m. TIC Treasury International Capital is coming out. But the morning is going to be where the action's at. Watch out for 10 a.m. This NAHB Market Index, top of the hour. It's not a huge impact release, but it might have some influence in the market. So monitor it around the time if you have any open trades. Okay. Definitely the way I do these things is I don't put in any new trades about 10 minutes before the news. And then if I have an open position, I won't necessarily get out of it, but I will tighten the stop going into news. All right, so that's the morning market update for the rest of the week. What do we have on Wednesday? These are the high impact events. Obviously there's more, but these are the ones that are listed as high impact that could have a potential to move the market and influence it. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, we have the FOMC meeting minutes out of the Federal Reserve. It's going to be interesting to see what federal speakers discussed, what their outlook was on monetary policy, what their outlook was on interest rates, the future path, etc. There's going to be some potential information that moves the market. 2 p.m. tomorrow in the afternoon. Thursday, nothing. Friday, we finish off with some core retail sales at 8:30 in the morning, and some data out of not core retail sales, sorry, at 9:45 in the morning. We're going to have flash manufacturing PMI out of the US. Core retail sales is Canada. And then we have some early on, like in the wee hours of the morning in the Eastern time zone in Europe, and GB in UK, we have flash manufacturing and out of both the UK and the Eurozone. All right, so some pretty big reports this week, but the majority is going to happen tomorrow afternoon, is the biggest volatility, and then Friday morning, just about 15 minutes into the market open. So not a lot of economic events for the US, but certainly there are quite a few important ones globally. So we got an interesting week ahead. I think all eyes at this point are on the coronavirus, the spread. More people on the cruise ship have been diagnosed, another 88 cases, bringing it to, I think, 500 and something, 524. All right, and that's a lot of cases, and the quarantine's set to expire in 2 days. So some passengers were evacuated over the weekend by the United States, okay, 2 days before the quarantine had ended. So the big question is, what's going to happen in 2 days? If there's new cases, what if they got infected in the last 2 days and they're not quarantined for 14? Does that mean they have 12 days of spreading the virus? Because this is a very dangerous virus, because number one, you could spread it before you know you have it, before you show any symptoms. Number two, you could get it twice, all right? And people who show some very severe symptoms get treated with HIV-related drugs. And the second time around on repeats of getting this virus twice, there's a really big risk of a sudden heart attack. So it's a very scary thing, all right? That's why the markets are taking it and pricing it into the stock market. If it escalates and gets worse, the downside will open up. At this point, the question is, will it get worse? If it gets worse, markets go down. If it doesn't, I think they're still in a slightly upward trend. All right, so this week I see a pullback Monday through probably middle of the week, recovery, and probably run back up to highs on the Friday or by Friday. All right, so this morning I'm going to start out by selling some rallies, probably around the 78s to 80s. All right, let's open up the trading room. YouTube, love you guys. Joseph, good morning on YouTube. Knob Rubber, thanks, bud. Great name. Jeffrey, Craig, Will, Mike.tv. You guys have a great rest of your day on YouTube. Love you all. Be good. Manage your risk trade at TRADEPRO, and we're getting ready to open up the trade room. Take care, guys, and have a great day. Peace out. All right, Boxy.